You are entering a safe space. Please take a moment to center yourself and allow every thought, worry, and care to fall away right now. Focus on taking deep breaths and allow yourself to feel the healing freedom that is waiting to be ignited within you. Welcome to the Loud Whisper Reignite Your Voice podcast. This is your healing space, providing you with hope and inspiration as you become more connected to yourself. Your safe vessel, helping you move to a higher consciousness to reignite your voice and discover who you are destined to be really inside you. I am Isabel, Draughon, your host. I am also an author, entrepreneur, and a life transformation and spiritual coach. Most importantly, I am a perpetual student of life, just like you. So let's explore together. Claim what is already inside you. Welcome to the Loud Whisper Reignite Your Voice podcast. This is your host, Isabel Draughon. Thank you so much for joining us. As I always say, this is your healing space, a space where you can come and really get information and tools about being. As of all of you know that I am more into the being of human beings. For us, it's your health and wellness podcast. We talk about it all. We are real, we are authentic. And what I love about this and the opportunity that is not just given me is to be able to bring powerful people on here just like you, who have the resources, who have the tools to be able to help you move through life and become the best version of yourself. So the first thing I want to say is thank you for taking the time to listen to the podcast. You could be listening to anybody else, but you took the time to be here with us. And I'm excited that you're here. And I am extremely excited for my guest. Welcome.
Thank you.
My beloved sister from the soil, like Idin Barak, by the way.
Thank
to you
you
and all of those of you that are listening to us. I hope you had an enjoyable time, and I'm excited, guys. This is going to be extremely powerful. I believe that it's going to be a powerful conversation with my beautiful sister, Yewande Banire. Did I say that correctly?
You did.
I did.
Yes.
Okay. I wanted to make sure I have the inflation too. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
It's such an honor.
I'm so excited. This is my first podcast.
Really?
It is. So it's so exciting, and it's just so memorable that it happens to be with my sister. So it's such a beautiful feeling.
Yes, it is a beautiful feeling.
Yes.
And these are the moments like these are moments that I have prayed for, especially being somebody who has lived outside of home for so long, is to be able to connect with everybody in general. But there's something special about sitting down and having a conversation with someone who even if we just met, believe it or not, we just met about a month and a half ago.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we met about a month and a half ago. And just being able to connect and relate to one another. So I am going to dive in and tell you a little bit. I have your bio here, and I want to tell them a little bit about your bio, and then we'll go ahead and dive in. So I'm so honored and welcome. And Yewande, she's a nurse practitioner specializing in women's health, premenopause, menopause, and midlife wellness. So all those things that I'm experiencing, and a whole lot of women my age and experiencing. She is our guru. I watch her. I'll put her information online for you guys to follow her, for you guys to connect with her. That's the reason why I bring people on this podcast. If you need help, if you need assistance. And I'm not just saying it, just even the information. She's very informational, very educational. I follow her and I learned so much just by following her social media. So she specializes in women's health, in premenopause, menopause, and midlife wellness, and how to navigate life on this stage with grace, confidence, and self-care, because our health and well-being matters at every age. And you also, what is the name of your business?
So it's called Serene Infusion and Wellness Lounge.
Serene Infusion and Wellness. Tell us a little bit about that.
So the journey actually started coincidentally because prior to becoming a businesswoman, I never thought that I would embark on the entrepreneurship journey. It's always been it always appeared very complicated, and it always seemed like it's not really for me.
Okay.
Because I don't really know a lot of, I'm Nigerian, by the way. I don't really know a lot of Nigerians that have businesses in the healthcare space. So when I decided that I was going to become a business owner, it was actually because of COVID. So COVID changed my perspective. And I remember the night vividly. I was working on a contract, and it was a very tough night because I worked in critical care during COVID. And this particular night, we walked in running.
So you were the nurse at the hospital?
I was a nurse at the hospital at that time. And we walked into the hospital that night running because we just had a lot of codes going on. Like we had a lot of emergencies going on. And I remember that by 9 p.m., I think we had lost about 3 or 4 people. By 9. We clocked in at 7, and by 9, we had lost like 3 or 4 people. And this particular night, I walked out of that room, and I just had tears in my eyes. I was just crying. And during COVID, I couldn't wipe my tears off. Because I had the mask, I had the face shield, I had the gown, I had the gloves. And at that point, we were actually rationing all of these things. So you couldn't just toss it out and put a new one. And I walked out of that room with tears in my eyes, and I said to myself, I said, there has to be a better way. There has to be a better way. And that night, my mindset shifted to there has to be a better way to prevent some of this. There has to be a better way for people to understand how to advocate for themselves, how to prevent being in this situation where they come in when it's almost too late. Because people were so afraid of coming to the hospital.
I remember,
People were so afraid.
Because people were not coming home.
They weren't.
When they came to the hospital.
So people were afraid because they felt like if they come to the hospital, that was it. So they were trying to manage some of these symptoms at home by themselves. And by the time they make it to the hospital, it was almost too late. And I thought to myself, I said, there has to be a better way to advocate for people, to teach them about the different things that they can do for themselves, so that before we get to this point, maybe we can prevent just a few more people from getting to the stage where now it's almost too late.
When it's almost too late.
And that night shifted my focus, because not only, and let's be real, a lot of nurses walked COVID because we were paid a lot of money.
Oh yeah. You guys made bank. You guys made some good money.
A lot of money.
Sure.
And not only did that change my life, because at that point I never even thought that kind of money was possible for me. And a lot of nurses also never thought we would ever
make that kind of money.
So we were able to put our lives on stake. Even though we were nurses, we became nurses for a reason. We love caring for people. That was our reason. But during COVID, the money was incentive. And I walked out of that room thinking, I have 5 kids at home. I have a husband. I have a mom. And I'm here, far away from home. Afraid, because at that point, we didn't know what COVID was.
Right, and then when you go back home and the family's at home.
We didn't know what COVID was.
Yes.
So at that point, we were treating patients, we were taking care of patients, terrified ourselves. Because at that point, we didn't have a vaccine. We didn't know what it was. People were dropping like flies. And I thought, I'm here. Yes, I want to help people. But money was also the incentive. And I thought, in my life, I never thought I could make this kind of money. So I never even thought to dream it.
Can I interrupt you there for a second? You've said that twice, and I felt that, right? You're like, I'm making this type of money. I'm going to come back to that. But with that said, why did you think you did? What is the story behind you that you thought you would never be able to make that type of money?
It was limiting beliefs. It was because...
When did you come? Did you come to the U.S. a long time ago, or...
So I came to the United States in 2009. And prior to that, in Nigeria, I was a biochemist. So all of my nursing degrees started here in the United States. And so at that point, you never hear nurses making that kind of money.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like, oh, it's something you can think about, or no. It was just the reality, right?
Yeah.
We had a threshold. Everybody, if you go into, I'm sure everybody can Google how much each, career can make.
Yeah.
So you have an idea of what range you could possibly be. But no, so you never thought to dream it because it just wasn't something that came
because they already
reality.
told you, like you say, every career has its own threshold, so you know the compensation of what people make.
Can make.
So here's my question to you: Did you guys make a lot of money because of overtime, or did they start compensating you guys more because you're working through COVID?
So it was both. They compensated us more because we were working COVID.
Okay.
And also because of the overtime. So the overtime was really what carried us because we're working days, like days on end.
Okay.
In nursing, I don't really know about any other career field.
Yeah.
In nursing, after your 40 hours or 36, after whatever is considered your full-time hours, then it becomes overtime.
I think it's 36. Most states.
For nursing, it's 36 hours.
Yeah, even regular.
Exactly. Except if you work in like clinics where they work 40 hours work week. But if you work in the hospital system, most of the time it's like 36 hours for nurses. So anything after 36 or maybe 40 hours, it depends on the hospital for policy, then it goes into overtime.
Okay.
So at that time, because we're working numerous hours a day, numerous shifts in a week, the overtime kicked in and, so it adds up.
Right.
And so a lot of us it was life-changing for a lot of people. Because if you really think about nursing, it's a female-dominated field.
It is.
And because in my opinion, because it's female-dominated, I don't think we were ever paid our worth.
Of course not. I always say you have to have, I say that about nurses and teachers, but especially nurses, because even at my age, I'm still afraid of a needle. but I always feel like you have to have a different type of heart. Because some people are like, I'll just go be a nurse so I can make a lot of money. People will say, you know what I mean? Because nurses make money, you can work overtime, or not the amount of money that you guys were making then. But I always thought to myself, you have to be a different kind of person. You have to really love people.
Yeah. You really have to.
Yeah.
And I think the landscape changed since COVID because a lot of people went into it because of the money and, they think, so it kind of changed.
Yeah.
And so if you think about nurses that have been nurses for like 10, 20, whatever years, it's a different mindset because a lot of us went into it knowing how much we're going to make.
Yeah.
So it was really because we wanted to do it, because we wanted to care for people. And also we wanted to have the flexibility to either pick up overtime or just work certain amount of days, especially if you're a mother, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So nursing afforded us the flexibility to actually, make your own schedule and still be able to have a career. So that's what a lot of us that did it. So since COVID, the landscape had changed because a lot of people went in because of the money. Exactly. And even when COVID was done and, we weren't making the type of money that we made at the height of COVID, the compensation still changed, right? Because they still need nurses to come into work and they still needed to give them more incentives. And I just also think that the newer nurses, especially the nurses that graduated during COVID, didn't really get the luxury of being carried by the other nurses.
Oh.
So
that's powerful. So the mentoring.
Exactly.
Learning from people who have been doing it, for years, the guidance.
They didn't really get that. So they come in, you find nurses. Exactly. You find nurses that have only been nurses for like 6 months, being charge nurses, because a lot of the seasoned nurses either left or on COVID assignments, or we were just burnt out.
Yeah.
So they come in, so they didn't really have that grace that we did when we became nurses, right? So, and then you find the floor, when you walk in a unit, you find that the most experienced person is probably being a nurse for like a year.
Yeah.
Because like I said, most of the seasoned nurses went for travel nursing, because remember, a lot of us had never seen this type of money before.
That's true.
So at this point, we're like, no. Yeah. And we have the skills, we have the experience.
Exactly.
We're like, and we also wanted to help people. And a lot of these staffing agencies also wanted experienced people because we were dealing with people that were critically sick.
And not even that, you're putting your life, and just like the way you say you have 5 children at home, and you're putting your life and your family's life at risk on a daily basis.
Absolutely. Like I said, also, they wanted the experience because we were caring for critically sick people.
What made you want to be a nurse? Is this something that you've always wanted to do? Because I know as a mother myself, and now you're an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur for 2 decades. It's not really an easy feat to do. And obviously we both know we're not from here. So you came from Nigeria. Is this something you've always wanted to do? Is this being a nurse, or your story was different? What is...
See, when I was a couple of years ago, I ran into my high school, what do we call it? This booklet that we have for high school. I forgot the name, where you have everybody's pictures.
Right, yearbook.
Yearbook, exactly, yeah. So I ran into my yearbook in high school, and in there it says that I wanted to be a gynecologist. So I've always wanted to be I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be an OB-GYN in high school. And then, I got into university, because in Nigeria, you're not... So you apply to different schools, but if the capacity for, if you apply to medical school, whatever,
and
to study
medicine, capacity is full, that's it.
They're just gonna give you another course, and that's just how we worked. And the capacity was full, and they just gave me biochemistry. So I said, oh, okay. So that's how. You just
said, okay, to biochemistry.
That's how it is back then. You know.
I mean, I understand what you mean. Yeah, that's how it is back home. But I would have freaked out if somebody said, Isabel, you need to do biochemistry, because I can't even. I'm an econ type of girl. I'm a that kind, but
So, but also in our high school, once you're in a senior class, you kind of decide if you're going to be science, commercial, or whatever. Mm-hmm. So from the senior classes of junior year to from sophomore to from our sophomore to senior year, you kind of decide what route you want to go. So you start taking those science classes, or you start taking admin classes, whatever. So that way that will prep you for college. And so that's how I ended up with biochemistry. And then when I relocated to the United States, it was really more about, okay, what do I want to do? And it wasn't so easy back then to transfer your transcripts and start all over. It wasn't so easy back then. So
now, when you moved here, you had all 5 kids already?
No. When I moved here with my son. It was about 4 or 5, and I was
the one
pregnant.
that just had a birthday?
Yeah, the one that just turned 22. Yeah, so it was about 4.
Yeah.
And then I was pregnant with my second by the time my papers were done.
Okay.
So when I started, when I realized that it was not going to be easy for me to transfer my transcripts from Nigeria, I decided I was going to start all over.
You did?
I did, because I was just like, I'm not
How
going to
many years had you have done in Nigeria?
I was already a graduate. I was already working. I was a biochemist in Nigeria, but it wasn't. It just wasn't easy to just say, because they wanted it to come from the university directly. Because I brought it with me, it was sealed, and I thought I could send an. They said no, it has to come from the university.
They did that.
And
to
if you know,
all levels and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Oh my God, that was the crazy. I'm
back then, the university
doesn't even make sense.
No, the university mailing stuff from Nigeria to
how.
You know what I mean?
How?
So you have to live, you always have to live in your own reality.
Yeah.
You always have to live your own reality.
I like that.
And just know, if you can't do anything about it, why worry? If you can, then do something
about it.
So at that point, that's
change.
it.
So
that's
you
it.
pivoted.
So I decided, I said, you know what? I'm not going to fight this system. I have my siblings and everybody back home waiting on me, because now I'm in America.
Yeah, I know.
And
when you come to America,
you know what that means? I'm the first child of my family.
Oh, yeah.
So you already know.
Yeah.
People
Everybody's depending on you.
They're depending on you.
Everyone is depending on you. Sure.
So I knew that, okay, I needed to do something. Yes, my husband was like, oh, you don't have to worry. You can just have because then I was about 5 months pregnant. And so I said, okay, I need to understand how the system works here to go to school. And he was like, are you going to start over? I said, I'm going to have to start all over.
Wow.
Because I'm not going to go back and forth with the system. Yes. Like, I don't have the power to change anything at this point. So I enrolled in a community college, and so by the time I enrolled in a community college, I was about. I was
going to ask you, how old were you by the time you enrolled? But I'm glad you mentioned it.
Yes, I think I was about maybe 27 or 28.
Okay.
When I enrolled, and I was pregnant. By then, I was about 7 months, because I had my son in October, and I started classes in August. And my husband was so against it. He was like, "You don't have to do this," because he's an engineer, so he could provide for us. He was trying to understand why you
doing
hustling
this?
like this. I'm just like. I was like, what am I going to use the rest? Because I asked them, I said, if I don't start this fall, then when would I start? And I think they said it would have to be maybe next year or whatever. And I'm thinking, what am I going to be doing for
between now and next year?
And it was like, you're going to have the baby. I was just like, no, it wasn't just in my personality to just sit down and just go, okay. So I said, no, let me start with these classes. Let me see how it would go. So when I started the prereqs, I had my son. It was about 4, and then I was pregnant, and then I had my son in October. I think shortly before midterm, something like that.
Wow!
And remember, there's a lot of when people see you, they automatically think that we're all starting from the same field, from the same playing field.
Yeah.
Even though it seems like that, it's not. It's never like that.
So everybody has a story, and you never know where someone is starting from.
You never know. You never know. And so me coming from Nigeria, knowing that when I have this child, it's going to be in the middle of the semester, and I'm going to need to take time off. I didn't think that far.
Okay.
When I decided I was going to take classes, I didn't think that you're going to have this baby in the middle of the semester, right? I didn't think that's far. I was just like, I'm not just...
You just knew you were not sitting down and doing nothing.
Like, I'm not sitting at home, because they started in August. I was like, August, September, October. I didn't think that far. I was just like, let me just do this. And then as it got closer, I was like, okay, I'm going to have this baby in the middle of the semester, and I have to go back to school because now here's the culture shock. In Nigeria, when you have a child, you're not expected to leave the house at all for the first 40 days.
Yeah. Yep.
So everybody comes in, you have a community, people come in to help you, all of that.
People don't understand here at home when you have a kid, they tell you, where are you going?
Everybody comes in, they help you, they do all of this.
I was at Target the next day when I had my kids. That would have never happened back home.
You know what I mean?
Never.
And 2 weeks later, because thankfully I had my mother-in-law that came to help me. And so that was all the part that I thought. I was like, my mother-in-law is going to be here so I can still continue school. But I didn't think about all the other nuances that would change when I have this child. And I had him, and I could only take 2 weeks out, because I had to go back to class.
Right.
And, 2 weeks later, I went back to class, and it was very weird. It was strange. Because I had to leave my infant at home to go to school and focus and act like everything is okay. But inside of me, it was a huge culture shock of leaving your child at home, and I'm here. I'm like, what am I doing? Yeah. Right? And these are the things
I can see that still touches you a little bit.
It's still very, it's still very sore. Because you think about the sacrifices that you make when you change your location. Because it's not just you just changing your location. It's you completely sometimes changing your life and how you see and approach things.
When I look at my children, even when I had my son, my oldest, and just like I felt you, like I see you tearing up because I feel you.
Yeah.
I wish it was different for him. I really do.
Yeah.
But mom was on survival mode.
Yeah, that's it. You have to do what you can.
Yeah.
To hold on to your own identity.
Yeah.
That's all it boils down to.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, once you hold on to yourself, then you always find yourself.
So how did you get yourself to be okay with you leaving the baby, going to class, and then too, now that I'm thinking about it, you're going to class, so that means you have freshmen who are 21?
Exactly.
22?
Exactly. Exactly. And you have that. And like I said, it's all about coming to terms with your why. And it's also about having the right kind of support system around you, so that no one is, because you're already battling with your own issues. You don't need anybody else to judge you and make you feel more awful than you already are. So I came to terms with, I'm just doing what's best for me and my family. Right. And so, after like a month, I got used to living in my home. And thankfully it was, and then we had Thanksgiving break, so I was at home. And then shortly, semester was out. So by the time we went back, I was able to stay home for the rest of the semester to raise him and all of that. And these are just things that as you go through life, you always want to remind yourself of your why. And for me, it's always been to never find myself in a place without options.
That's it.
That's always my why.
Yeah.
To never find myself
always have options.
in a place without options. Even though I was married, I had a husband who had a great job. I had a husband who loved me, who supported me. I still always wanted to feel like I was holding on to myself. And because at the end of the day, you have to be your own home.
You do.
You have to.
You do.
If your home is in someone else, you risk being homeless.
Yeah.
Because they are trying to build their home too.
That's real. Yeah.
So you have to, and the only way to do that, we always say, oh, well, maybe if you have the right support system, maybe a lot of things can be let go. But the problem is, how much can you let go and when? Because you never know what can change.
And you never know what can change. And even besides your husband, even with your own children.
Yes.
You have to be your own home. Because
absolutely.
I tell people, I call it the and then what syndrome.
Yes.
As women, we get tied to that identity. I'm the mother, mom. Then the kids are grown. They're grown.
That's it.
They have their own families. And then we're sitting here confused. But you're right. You have to be your own home.
Yes, that's it. So all those years, it was just a goal to... And that's actually how I settled for nursing. Because even when I was deciding on which route to go in terms of pharmacy, because it was between pharmacy and nursing, and a lot of Nigerians, we are all in medical field.
You guys are all in medical field.
There's a lot of nurses. And I remember a friend
my brothers and sisters from Nigeria, all in medical field.
We are. And I remember that at that point, I was trying to decide, between pharmacy and nursing. And a friend of mine, she's a nurse and she lived in New York. And I remember calling her, like, hey, you know what, I'm trying to decide. We went to high school together. And I called her, I was like, I'm trying to decide which route to go. Either pharmacy and then either computer, because then tech was a big thing back then too. So either pharmacy, tech, or nursing. And she said, hey, sis, I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Out of all those three, the one that will give you the most flexibility the most would be nursing.
Interesting. You would think pharmaceutical because the store does close. Like
no, not really. If you're not, it depends.
You're right, because
it depends. Because if you're inpatient pharmacy,
right.
If you're retail too, they work really long hours too.
They do.
So and she was like, because with nursing, you can either be school nursing, you can be work in insurance, you can work in the hospital. Like the options are more.
Yeah.
And she already knows, she's a Nigerian too, right? She knows that it's gonna be a lot trying to juggle being a wife and mother and still holding on to your career.
Deal. She knows the deal.
Yeah. So she's like,
because it doesn't matter what you're doing, you're coming home and cooking.
You're coming home and taking care of the family. Exactly.
Yeah.
So she understands it. She was like, that would give you, at least with nursing, if you work in the hospital, you're only working 3 days. Even though the other 4 days you're exhausted because you're trying to catch up, but it actually gives you more flexibility. And I said, you know what, let's do that.
Okay.
And that's how my journey started and over the years. And as you do it, as you pick a career, I realized, you know what, I actually really enjoy it. Because remember, the goal from high school was to be a gynecologist, right? So it was living what I wanted, it just in a different way.
Right.
And and I really enjoyed it. And so I started to develop and grow from just being a registered nurse, and then I started getting more degrees and more education. So that way I can, have more autonomy and do more. And that's how it just transitioned till I became a family nurse practitioner.
Okay. Okay. Wow. That's, I like what you said. Be your own home.
Yes. Because a lot of it is just, a lot of us are looking for validation.
We are. And the scariest thing about it is that we're scared to be our own home because it doesn't look like what somebody else's home looks like.
Exactly. And that's what I mean by the validation. Because you're thinking that your home is not enough.
Exactly.
You're thinking that maybe there's so much more somewhere else.
Yeah.
But really, it's really just watering your own home. Yeah. Keeping it clean.
Yeah. The size of it doesn't matter. It doesn't.
It doesn't. It's just your happy place. Keep it clean.
Yeah.
Declutter it. Water the plants in your own home.
Yeah.
And it will give you the peace that you need. Because at the end of the day, someone else's story is just to tell, it's just to work. It will not work for you the way it works for them. Because it's not yours.
Yeah.
So if you try to assimilate or try to mimic someone else's life to fit yours, it's not going to be the same for you, because you guys live different. It's a different path for each person.
And I always say, we try to become someone who doesn't exist. The moment you try to be something other than yourself.
Absolutely.
And that's why we stay in this crazy state of, we're on the hamster wheel, depression, anxiety, not feeling good enough, not feeling worthy, because we're trying to be someone who does not exist, someone who we feel the world wants us to be, or like you said, looking at other people and saying, I wish I could be this person, and then you try to emulate them. It's never going to happen. So you keep yourself on that editing, right?
Yes.
Editing. It's so important to know yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you're here looking, I want to be that person, that kind of person. If I was this person, my life would be perfect. But do you know that person's story?
No.
Are you able to do what they do to get to where they are?
Yeah.
Maybe their process will break you. You don't know.
That's deep. Yeah.
You don't know. So yours is yours to carry. And we always say, God does not give us much more than we can handle.
No, he doesn't.
It doesn't. So he has given you
what you can handle. And it's interesting you say that, because it may break you. I love that you say that. I was listening to, I think was it Tyler Perry or somebody, and they were talking about how sometimes when you're going up or you're doing things in life, there are some people that you have to leave behind, because you keep trying to pull them up, but the higher you go, maybe they're not able to survive in that high altitude.
Yes.
And I never thought about that. I said, oh my goodness, that's so deep.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And I thought to myself, I said, so what happens is, instead of you going up, you're literally making your life harder, because you're looking down, trying to pull people up when God has created a path. They will go up, but they're going to go up their own way.
Absolutely.
On their own height.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think all of that wisdom comes with age.
Yeah.
It comes with life. It comes with our lived experiences.
It also comes with environment.
We're a product of our environment.
Yeah.
It also comes with the environment, where we're from, and what we understand about ourselves. And because sometimes change is scary.
Change is scary.
It's scary. It's deep. And you also don't want to find yourself in a place where people would think, oh, now she's elevated. Now she's too good for us. Right?
But here's the thing, honey. I love that you said that. I'm over that.
Yeah.
I'm so over that. Because here is the thing, you know who you are.
Yeah.
And I feel like people, and you will find these people closest to you that do that, they're projecting their life on you. Mm-hmm. It's wisdom.
Yes.
You're saying it's life experiences. That means I've become wiser. Yeah. There's certain things I used to do I don't do anymore.
Absolutely.
Right? So what does that mean? I have certain boundaries.
Yes.
There are certain things, but that doesn't mean I love you any less. I'm not just going to hop with you like how I used to. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we have this thing, and I honestly say, especially coming from Africa, we have this thing where when someone is elevating, because it's so, I think we live in an environment where it's more economical based of how people are viewed, or the more education you have, the more you're validated as a human being. The more money you have, the more you're validated. And it's this thing that I've noticed, that when people are striving to do well, just as you mentioned, just because you see somebody in a 6,000 square foot home, that doesn't mean they're happy.
It doesn't.
It doesn't. But then at the same time, we also have to be careful. The reason why I say I'm over it, that left me stuck for a very long time. Always think, because people will always say that she thinks she's better than everybody else. No, I'm just a little bit wiser.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it. I'm a little bit wiser. I don't love you any less.
Yes.
I'm a little bit wiser. Now, if I'm off track, tell me about it. But this thing, or people think she's better than, I'm over that.
Yeah. I agree.
I am over that.
I agree.
Yeah.
And I think it's all about the intentions, just like you
That's
said.
It.
Like, knowing that it doesn't mean I love you any less.
No.
It just means that, my life is changing.
My life is changing.
And I need to keep up with that change. I need to change some of the things around me.
Exactly.
And it doesn't mean I love you less. It just means that, change is happening.
And I feel that sometimes when we find ourselves in those situations, is people don't identify with who we are anymore.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
She's no longer the girl that I used to. She used to do this, but now, because she's doing this, so you don't identify with me and you feel like I'm better than you. That is not the truth. I'm just on a different space in my life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There are things that I'm doing that I never used to do. Mm-hmm. You may still be doing, but I'm not doing. And right. I feel that the reason why I jumped on that is because I lived off of that for so long, always trying to make sure people are so comfortable. But at the end of the day, the moment, and let me tell you why this is so deep for me. God actually showed me this because of the people-pleasing thing. So God showed me that you have to face the reality of who people are in your life. So because of your trauma, you want to love everybody so hard.
Yeah.
But you have to face the reality of who people are in your life. That doesn't mean you love them any less.
Right.
You can love them from a distance, but this idea that you want to make sure everybody thinks that you don't feel they don't say that you're too good.
Yeah.
You will continue losing yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a terrible thing about people pleasing.
Yeah.
And like you said, I think all of this comes with wisdom, because I think most of us growing up, we always want to please people.
Yeah. We've been conditioned to please.
To please people. We want our friends to like us. We want people to like us. We want to belong to a certain group, and so because of that, we hide ourselves. We do everything that we can to make them like us.
Yeah.
And then as we grow, we find that we're losing a lot of ourselves in trying to please these people.
Yes.
And that's why it comes with lived experiences.
Yeah.
And then we understand ourselves.
Yeah.
And God forbid, most of us are now in perimenopause.
So I was about to dive into
now
that.
Now we have zero to give.
Now we have zero to give.
Now we have zero, because now we've matured over the years. We've had so many changes over the years. And now our hormones are all over the place. And now it's almost like, no, I'm not doing it.
Yeah. Let's talk about that, sis. I'm glad you brought that up. It's like the energy was sinking just right, because I was going to dive into that. Thank you so much for sharing your story and giving us your wisdom of your lived experience and how you got here. So now with your business, which is amazing, and I'm just so proud. Like you said, you don't see a lot of people. You're talking about Nigeria. Let's just be, at least for me, I don't want to blanket it, just like how you said it. Don't see a lot of females in the health space.
We don't.
In the health space, you do not see a lot of females in the health space owning the business and saying, I am going to make sure I take care of people. Like, you're always under a doctor.
Yeah.
Females are always under a doctor, which there's nothing wrong with it.
Right.
But the truth is you really don't. And I'll add this really quick before we jump into it. This resonated so much when you say that. I had, 2 years ago, I had a partial hysterectomy. Mm-hmm. And what really upset me was how silent of a journey it was for women, just like menopause and premenopause.
Yes.
Until when I told people that I told my friends or girlfriends that I had a partial hysterectomy, because I had cysts that were so big, 8 weeks pregnant. I work out, and the doctor's like, no, this has to go. And I always had this belief in me. I can't do that because God created me this way. So I held on to it. And I don't know if it was a limiting belief, and you probably talk about some of the beliefs that we have as people. I promise you, she had been telling me for 5 years, Isabel, you are done. You need to get rid of this. Me? No way. God created me this way. What? I'm going to cut my ovaries. Are you kidding me? I'm going against God. But here is the thing. I say this to say, because I was talking to my cousin one day, and she was telling me about her hysterectomy, and I'm like, why didn't you tell me so you can school me about it? So I'm talking to all these women, and after I had mine is when everybody's opening up. I guess we have this shame thing about our bodies and what we're experiencing. But she said something so profound. She said to me, it's so interesting as women. She said, I love the fact that you said you're going to start talking about women's health. And I told her why. She said, women, there's nobody in the health space for us. Even the pills that we take, men make them.
Yeah.
She made that point. I said, I never thought about that. Yeah. She said, if men want to make their sexual life better, or if they want to do something, they create something for that. there's nobody we don't have a lot of women in the health space who would say, I'm a woman, I experienced this, so let me take care of women.
And this is what and I have to give credit to the influencer doctors.
Yeah.
Because it started a momentum that I will forever be grateful for. Prior to this group of doctors talking about menopause and perimenopause, it wasn't something we said out loud.
No,
it wasn't.
No,
a lot of women were gaslighted into thinking that it's just in their head and they're just making it up.
And it's a problem.
And it's a problem. Yeah. And, women they're too emotional and, they exaggerate and things like that. So no one was really listening. Yeah. And if you really think about the percentages of women to male doctors,
oh my goodness, you can't even.
You know what I mean?
You can't even measure it.
You can't even equate it
at all.
And that's it. So a lot of these doctors started talking about all of these problems that women are experiencing. And that started a movement. Because now menopause is having a movement and I'm loving it.
Yeah.
Right? Because these are conversations that we need to have.
Because it's real.
It's
and really real.
A lot of women are suffering.
Yes.
Now I want you to think about it. If we have, with the amount of technology, the amount of resources that we have in the United States.
Yeah.
A lot of women are still, only about 4% of women are actually on hormone replacement therapy. Okay. That means only about 4% of women are actually being treated for their perimenopause. So
think about Africa.
So now think about Africa.
Good Lord.
Think about that. Not only do we not even know, not only do we not even have the resources to do this, we don't even have the education. To even understand what's going on with us.
We don't even have the courage to say this is how I'm feeling.
It out loud.
Yes.
We don't have the courage to say it out loud.
Did not think about that.
We don't have the courage to say it out loud. And this is my mission. I'm speaking this to the universe. I hope I find myself in a space where I have a platform to educate Africans especially. I want to educate women.
It's starting right here. Thank you, God.
I'm telling you, I want to educate our women.
Yes.
But black women are especially disadvantaged. Especially.
Wow. Why? Now, tell me about so black women in general are disadvantaged.
Yes.
Probably black and brown women.
Yes.
So I want to talk about that in general, in totality.
Yes.
And then also on the African aspect of it. Mm-hmm. I would love to talk about that, how we need to start having these conversations, honest conversations, and not be ashamed about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that's the first step. The first step is acknowledging that there is a problem.
There's a problem,
or maybe not a problem, there's a change. So I'm not going to call it a problem. I'm going to say the first thing is to acknowledge that there's a change that is going on.
Yeah.
And the change is normal. Right? So that's the first thing, to accept that and to know that, okay, you know what, there's a change and I need to learn about it. And I always tell people, it's best to learn about it before you actually need it. Because then you can recognize it. Because then you can know what
kind of like preventative care.
Exactly, before. Yeah. So that way, when you start to have it, you're like, okay, you know what, I know what this is. Right? So for black and brown women especially, unfortunately, the system is not made for us. The system is not, the processes was not written with us in mind.
Oh, can you expound on that a little bit for us to understand?
It's not, I don't think it's malicious. I just think if you really think about the percentage of black or brown people in the medical field, and if you think about when they started, when they got the opportunity to be part of the medical field, these are systems that have been in place for centuries.
Oh. Okay.
So it's not like this is something that was just guidelines or policies that are initiated in the last 5 or 10 years.
This is what's been happening
for years, for decades.
Yeah.
So now think about it. 50 or 60 years ago, how many black doctors do we have? 60 years ago. How many black female doctors did we have?
Let alone 30 years ago.
Let alone 30. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, so a lot of this are things that have just been carried over the years. So the researches that they done, the clinical trials that they done, were done based off the white population.
Sure.
So it did not come from a malicious place.
Yeah. It's kind of like what we just talked about with the male and female.
Exactly. It was just what they had.
Male
exactly. It was
doctors,
it was just the way it was set up back then. So of course all of the data that they had were data that were for the white population. Yes. Because those were the people that participated in the clinical trials. Yeah. So now we come in And then our symptoms present differently. Because just like we said, we're not the same. We're ethnically and racially different.
Yeah.
So we cannot use the guidelines that were made for the Caucasians for brown people. Because genetically, we're different.
We're different. Yeah.
So now the way this will present in you will be different from the way it presents in me. So when I talk about how I am feeling, you as a Caucasian or as someone who is not culturally competent don't understand what I'm talking about. Because it differs from the guidelines that you have.
So what you're saying is this, correct me if I'm wrong. Black women are not being heard and understood in the medical arena.
Because the way to treat and heal Black women is different. It's different. So
why is that bringing tears to my eyes? Because I'm just thinking about all the suffering
that we endure. So it's different. The way our symptoms will present, the way we will react is different.
Yeah.
So we cannot be treated based off the policies and procedures that were set up decades ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
We cannot.
I don't know why that just got me teared up.
Right. So, and that's why diversity matters. That's why we need to talk about these things. So that way we can learn about these unconscious biases that we have.
Right.
You need napkins?
I know, right? I'm like literally tearing. I'm like because I'm just thinking like what you were just saying.
Absolutely.
Even not just, at least here in America, I'm just thinking of the women back home.
Exactly.
And it just hit me like a ton of bricks.
How much suffering that they're going
through. The
through.
suffering is what's killing me.
Not knowing what it is.
Yeah.
And everything back home is the enemy, right? The enemy has gotten me. Oh, this is voodoo. But it's not voodoo.
You're right.
It's not voodoo. It's biology.
I'm not laughing. I'm not laughing.
Everything is
That's
the enemy.
so real.
For real.
No, that is so real. Everything is the enemy.
It's the enemy. Oh my God, my enemies have gotten me. Now they're praying and fasting about it, but it's just biology. But guess what? Nobody told them what it is. They have no idea what it is. They're having these hot flashes. They don't have any idea why they're having these hot flashes. Jesus. And then they feel warm from inside, and all of a sudden they're cold. And all of a sudden they don't feel good. Now they're in charge of going to the market.
Suffering.
Now they can't even think about the goods that they have anymore because of the brain fog. And then they can't even say it out loud because they didn't know it's a problem.
Good Lord.
Now they're thinking it's a person, their competitor, that is making them
forget the things. That's making them forget it's voodoo.
Goods. It's voodoo. But it's just biology. They're just having brain fog. So now they're targeting their prayer to that one because they think, oh, my competitors are against me. They're after me. They're making me forget the goods I have. They're making me not feel good. They're making me so fatigued so that I won't be able to come to the market. But it's just biology.
But they just don't know
just
themselves.
Biology. It's just transition. So all of that is adding more to their stress. It's exacerbating their symptoms, and they don't know who to talk to.
Oh my God.
So it's a lot that we have to unpack, and that's why I started showing up on social media. Yeah. So social media was not something I wanted to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
No. I've had my page. I think I opened a page in 2022, and I would just post images of, things in the clinic. I never showed my face. Yeah. I never showed my face until, I think, spring of last year.
Well, thank you for showing your face.
Because then I started hearing all these doctors, all these menopause doctors teach about all of these things. And I'm like, how will my people know that it's not a white person problem if there's no black people that sound like them talking about the same thing?
Jeez.
So they will always still think that's a white person problem because there's no black person that sound like them talking about
it. And then if they go to the doctor with those symptoms, nobody's, oh my goodness.
Because they can't.
And what I'm thinking about too is like how you're saying, even the research and everything, and not with being malicious, but it has not been curated for our bodies.
It hasn't. So even if you come in and you as a black person, you have eczema, and a white person has eczema, the doctor, the textbook only showed the eczema.
That's why my
on the white
eczema,
person.
It was never cured.
On a white person. So when you come in and saying they don't know what it is because it doesn't look the way it is in the textbook. So none of this is malicious. We're just products of our environments. It just wasn't designed with us in mind. So now we're teaching people how to heal our people.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
That's the goal.
Because it's not the same.
we have to start grateful for people like you who will start educating us.
And that's it. It comes from education.
Get educated.
Absolutely. And for all people, all women, to know that we will all go through menopause. All of us will.
Yeah.
It's not something that we can escape. We will all go through menopause. The symptoms might be different.
Yeah.
Because of our lifestyle modifications, our past medical history, all of those things play a role in how it develops or how it presents in us. But we will all go through menopause. Now, the question is, does everybody need hormone replacement therapy? Maybe not. It depends on what your symptoms are.
Yeah.
But I always say that we can use some hormone therapy for prevention. So, but at the end of the day, it's a shared decision making. You have to decide what you want to do, how you want to age, because we're not changing aging.
Yeah.
We're just helping you age gracefully. We're not changing.
Because the change is going to happen. That's inevitable.
Regardless of
regardless whether you do something or not, it's inevitable. And I'm going to go a little bit deeper here. I always say, loud whisper, we talk about it to the core. I hear a lot of women having problems, especially when it's sexually. Not having the desire to want to be intimate, not so that's of course creating another mountain of I'm not good enough.
Absolutely.
What is going on with me?
And God forbid you're African. Nobody even thinks that you should have sexual needs.
And
what?
What? They're like,
you talk about
no.
it and think you're promiscuous. They start to judge you. Like, what does she mean?
Yeah, what does she mean? Yeah.
Exactly.
They'll say she's too, they'll call you fast.
Absolutely.
That girl fast.
Absolutely. Because all they think, when they think about sex, is for you to consummate. It's for you to have a baby.
Yes.
That's it. They don't think you should enjoy it. They don't think you should derive pleasure from it. So God forbid you're African.
And I'm glad you mentioned that. I've heard it a lot from women of color in general and Black women. But every time I hear it from African women, it's that. It's and you can't explain that to anybody because it doesn't even make sense that I'm like, what do you mean? Yeah, then they'll be telling me, Bella, you're different. I'm like, what do you mean?
Exactly.
That's what you want. That's what you want.
Those kind of conversations are uncomfortable for us because of our cultural biases, because of how we're trained, because of how we're raised. You know, like I said, like women are not raised to enjoy sex. No, they just, the guy is meant to enjoy it, and you are just meant to do it so you can have the baby.
You're just meant to serve and have the baby.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's different. So now we start to talk about all of the things that come with the transition that we're going through as women. And if you don't even know what it is, how can you even articulate or even identify that you have something that you can get help with?
Yeah.
Because not everybody goes through the same. Not everybody goes through all the symptoms. There's like 100 and something symptoms for perimenopause.
Oh, is it really?
Absolutely. And that's also why sometimes it's so challenging for people to treat. And sometimes I'll have people come to me and say, how do I even know that I'm in perimenopause? Maybe I have the lady who came in and she was having heart palpitations. And that can be a symptom of perimenopause or menopause. And she was having heart palpitations. She's been having it for about 2 years. And she came to me because she listened to one of my educational videos on social media. And she said, I've been having these heart palpitations for like 2 years. I've done all kinds of cardiology workup. We've done all of that. They can't find out what it is. And I always say, in the absence of anything major, so if you come in with a particular symptom, I always say, okay, let's make sure there's nothing else going on.
Yeah.
In the absence of all of that, then it could be that transition. And I say, usually estrogen is very important for the heart. It's actually very important. So I said, already she's also menopausal. She's been like 5 years post-menopause.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, you can benefit from it anyway. She had other symptoms, but the most bothersome to her is the palpitations. So I said, okay, let's start you on a treatment and we'll see. And all it took was 8 weeks.
Really? And just the shift
happened. It completely stopped. I'm saying, now it's been over a year. She hasn't had palpitations.
Wow.
Is it going to be the same for everybody? No. But hormone therapy would help the symptoms that are related to hormone deficiencies. So does it mean you're not going to have any other issues? When you had all your hormones in check, you still had other issues.
Yeah.
So I always tell people to have realistic expectations.
That's pretty powerful, yeah, because even when you were young and your hormones in check,
issues.
you had
your bloating, you're having issues.
Yes,
so people come in and are like,
you have period pains, or you have this, or you're bloated, and there's so much.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I say hormone therapy would fix symptoms that are as a result of hormone deficiencies. It's not gonna. You still have to get your nutrition right. You still have to modify your life. You still have to manage your stress. You still have to do all those. You still have to get adequate protein intake.
Yeah.
Hormone therapy, if you're taking the medication, it's not just going to change everything. No, you still have to do the work. What it's going to do is going to correct some of the deficiencies that your body is lacking so that you have the ability to do what you want to do. If you're severely fatigued because you don't have enough estrogen or because your iron is low, then when we replace that, then you have the energy to maybe work out or to maybe go on a walk or things like that. So we're just helping you. It's a tool in the toolbox, right? So when people are transitioning either from perimenopause to menopause, it's really all those changes that you're aware of. That's what the education is all about. So that you're aware of all the changes that can happen while you're going through it. And if you're suffering, you don't have to, because we also have resources and tools in a toolbox that we can help.
That can help.
That's it. We're not saying that, everybody. No, not everybody needs to be. Yeah. Even I'm an advocate of estrogen, especially because of the important role.
See, I didn't even know that.
Especially in menopause. In perimenopause, maybe not necessarily, because your body's still making it. It's just fluctuating a lot. That's why you have those symptoms. If it's not really bothersome, then you don't have to. But once you get into menopause, where you're no longer making these hormones, then I always advocate for at least some dose for prevention. Right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's still everybody's comfort level.
Yeah.
But I think the fear comes from lack of knowledge.
It is lack of knowledge.
The fear comes from lack of education.
Yeah.
Because people will pop in supplements to help with their menopause or perimenopausal symptoms, but be so afraid to take the medications that have been trialed and tested, gone through clinical trials, right? Just because they're so afraid that, they said this will cause breast cancer.
Yeah.
But that has been debunked. Now, any medication can cause any problem. As long as you're taking any medication, you can have any side effects. But the goal is about going to a provider.
That's one thing I've never understood with medicine, too.
That's how it is.
Yeah.
But if you go to a provider who is culturally competent, who understands the changes that can happen, then you'll be safe. As long as you trust that person. Because like I said, there's so many things that can go wrong and the process of trying to adjust all of these things too. But the first thing is the trust. Do I have a provider who understands the changes that I go through?
Yeah.
As a person.
Yeah.
And like I said, that's why I joined the social media providers in educating people, because I realized that they're doing this good work. And they're doing, because how many people can one provider possibly see?
That's true.
But what we're doing is that if we give you the tools and the education, then you can advocate for yourself.
Yeah.
And if someone tells you your labs are normal, you can say it can be normal today. It doesn't mean that I don't qualify for help. That's all we're saying. So these are conversations that we need. They're not comfortable conversations, but we need to have these conversations.
We do.
The reason why they're not comfortable is because we're hiding from them.
Yeah.
Because we make them seem like it's a big deal.
But and it's part of our.
It's part of aging. It's part of who we are.
It's part of. That's what I wanted to say. It's part of who we are.
Absolutely.
But it's been a trend for us women. Everything that changes in our lives, we're always ashamed.
Absolutely.
Of stuff like that.
Exactly.
And then what happens is at the end, and then you're getting hurt, you're getting sick, and like you say, and then it's too late.
Yes.
I do want to ask you this before we kind of wrap up. So, are you saying now they are creating medicine that at least helps people of color?
So we have the medications already. We're not creating new medications.
Okay.
But
it's the type of medication, is that what you're saying?
No, not really the type of medications. We use the same medications for all women.
Okay.
What we're saying right now is that we are now listening to women of color differently. To prescribe these medications to that, so that when the symptoms don't match the regular symptoms that we have, we can still say, yes, it can still be this.
Okay, I got it. Okay.
That's what's changing, to be more inclusive, to say, okay, well, you know what, because this hot flashes in a white person can be them turning red, visibly sweating, things like that. Maybe in a black person can just be them feeling a little warm.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't necessarily change color because we're dark skinned, right?
Yeah.
So we're just saying.
So what else happens to them than changing color is what you're saying.
Exactly.
Right.
So now we're saying that because it doesn't match the textbook presentation, it doesn't mean it's not that.
I get it. Like be inclusive. Let's
exactly.
So
that's what we're saying now.
Okay.
We're teaching people how to heal our people to say, hey, because they don't match the regular textbook, doesn't mean that they don't deserve to be listened to. It doesn't mean that they don't deserve to be treated.
Okay.
Or provided with the tools that we have in our toolkit.
Okay.
So that's what we're saying. The medications are still the same. And we also are also teaching that because black people were not really part of these trials that were done years ago, it means that we may respond to therapy a little differently.
Yeah.
And we need to be open to that, to say, okay, do they need more or do they need less? We need to be privy to make those changes as we go. All we're saying is make it individualized, make it specific to that person.
Yeah.
Black, brown, white, whoever.
Yeah.
Make it specific to that person so that when they don't really match the textbook guidelines, we can still treat them and get them to feeling like their best self.
Like their best self. Wow, that's extremely powerful. I was going to ask you, just in generality, collectively, what women are like signs of menopause and premenopause really quick before we wrap up. But you told me it's like there are hundreds of them. So I'm not even going to
So we have some classic signs. And this is where the misconception.
Give us the classic signs because I really just want because sometimes I ask myself, sometimes I'm feeling a certain type of way and I don't know, is this just today on a Monday?
Right.
Or does this have to do with menopause? What I do tell you though, I'm a hot at night.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. Then 1 second I'm cold.
Yes.
And then I'm hot again.
Yeah.
And then I'm cold. I'm like, oh my goodness. And then another thing, waking up in the middle of the night for no reason. Why am I waking up in the middle of the night, thinking about things that don't even make sense, thinking about things that have got nothing to do with what I need to think when I need to be sleeping? That's probably why my eyes are always so tired. I'm waking up in the middle of the night.
Unconsciously mentioned the classic signs.
Oh, okay.
So really, it's the hot flashes where you're all of a sudden just suddenly so hot, and then the next second you're cold.
Yes.
And you need it fine. Excuse me. So classic insomnia, waking up between that 2 to 4 a.m.
Yeah.
And then your mind is just racing
for no reason.
All kinds of things. Those are the classic signs, and this is where the misconception comes in too, because when people don't have the hot flashes. Then they think, oh, I'm not in perimenopause.
Okay.
But that's not. It's just a classic sign. It's just that if you have that, then we know that, okay, this is it.
Okay.
But some of the most common signs are brain fog. And brain fog is cognitive fatigue, right? It just means that your brain is so deficient in estrogen that you're having this fatigue.
You know what's so funny? My girlfriends and I have brain fogs all the time. You know what we've been saying? Oh my goodness, this is old age. Now that you say that, it has nothing to do with old age.
No.
Like I can forget something that I thought about 10 minutes ago.
That's it. Those are the changes.
Like for real.
Absolutely.
And then I'm like, oh, this is old age. You know, this road to 50 or this road to...
So those are the things, fatigue, right? Some people start to have urinary frequency. Some people have these joint pains. And some people, it's just emotional. They have these mood swings. And some people just don't feel like themselves. And then we have a lot of people that have the low libido, where they just don't have the desire. And I always say, libido, if your libido does not bother you, it's not a problem.
Some people don't get bothered by it?
Some people don't. Some people will tell you, I can't be bothered. I don't care.
Oh, okay.
If it doesn't bother you, it's not a problem.
Yeah.
If it bothers you...
Oh, my God. What? Oh, my God.
So, if it doesn't bother you, or if you want to be a good wife or a good partner, if it's bothering your partner and you're like, okay, I can do without, maybe you want to help him. And, at that point, some people will find help.
Okay.
So these are the things that people start to experience as the changes, as the transition is taking place.
Yeah.
That you don't need to suffer. You don't need to suffer through brain fog because we have tools in the toolkit.
Yeah.
So some people cannot take hormone replacement therapy. Some people have contraindications based on their past medical history and things like that. So not everyone can take it. And we have non-hormonal options that we use for those type of people that can help with some of the symptoms. Yeah. Some people, it's just frequent UTI because estrogen is needed in that area too, down there. But a lot of us don't even want to acknowledge that we have issues down there.
Down there, yeah.
We don't. If I ask you, when was the last time you looked down there?
Right.
See, even you can't even answer that. You don't even know what it looks like. And then you complain, I went to the doctor, I was complaining, the doctor didn't look down there. If the doctor looked down there, can you tell him what's different? If you don't look.
Right.
You don't look down there.
You just clean and do whatever, but nobody sits with a mirror
and
like.
You should take a mirror. Whoever's listening to me out here, if you're listening to me today.
Tell it. No, really, on a serious note.
On a serious note.
Okay.
If you're listening to me right now.
Okay.
I want you to get a mirror, patronize local people. So whoever's listening to me right now, I want you to get a mirror and I want you to make it an habit to check your vulva every month, at least once a month.
Really?
Now, the vulva, people always ask, what's the difference between the vulva and the vagina? The vulva is the outer part of the vagina.
Okay.
The vagina is the canal. That's the inside. That leads to
that
your inside. That leads
to
sex. Yeah. So you need to check it. Get a mirror at least once a month and look in that area. If you see any bumps, if you see any rashes, if you see
Interesting.
you need to know. Because sometimes these things don't really cause a symptom. Sometimes they don't hurt. Sometimes they don't bother you. So you don't even know that you had a change. This is so
powerful because we think, I don't care how clean you are. Like we're cleaning ourselves every day and we obviously as women, we're making sure when you're showering, this is the place where I want to be the cleanest.
Right.
Never would I have thought in a million years that I need to take the time and look at it because what it may look like 2 months ago
may not be what it looks like today
because things are changing.
Things are changing, and that's how you can advocate for yourself. I want you to think about it. If you go to a doctor and say, hey,
this is so good.
You go to your doctor and you say, hey, doc, I have... there's something going on down there. And he says, oh, what's going on? Or he or she says, what's going on down there? And you're like, I don't know. I just feel there's a change. So, you know what? Let's just monitor it.
Yeah.
But if you go down there and you say, hey, doc, there's a change down there. And he or she says, what's the change? And you say, you know what? I have some bumps on there that I never had before. There's this section that's feeling a little tender.
Yeah.
When I look at it, there's discoloration. Do you think that person will tell you to monitor it? No, that person is going to tell you, get on the exam table. Because you were specific about the changes down
yourself.
there. And you say there's a discoloration. It doesn't look like that. Last month I didn't have it. And now I look this month, there's a change. There's this discoloration, there's this rashes. You need to know. That person is not going to tell you to monitor it. Yeah. That person is going to tell you, get on the exam table, let's examine what's going on. Because they know that you've done your work. You can specifically articulate the changes down there.
That's powerful.
So I need everyone to get a mirror and look at least once a month.
Okay.
Maybe after your period, maybe before your period.
And if you don't have one, just once a month.
And just set a date and just put it on your calendar and just say once a month, I'm going to, just like we're doing breast examination.
Okay.
We need to check our vulva to make sure that it's still intact, it's still healthy, so that we can advocate for ourselves.
Wow. Wow, sis, powerful. Never would I have thought in a million years. Wow.
So these are the things that we need to hear from people that look and sound like us.
Look and sound like us.
So that we know that these are serious things, that especially as we're transitioning.
Yeah.
So that way we can know our body well.
Yeah. Take care of ourselves.
Like all of the details.
We have to, and oh my goodness, this is so powerful. This really just hit me. We have to get to the space where we're knowing ourselves enough.
Absolutely.
And take care of ourselves, to love ourselves, to honor ourselves, to really, we live in a world now where we can no longer point fingers at other people.
Nobody's coming to save you.
Nobody's coming to save you. And this constant thing of, well, because these people, and we need to cut out the shame. There's nothing to be ashamed of.
At all.
There's absolutely nothing to be ashamed of.
There's nothing to be ashamed of. Shame leads to suffering.
And abuse.
Yeah.
And this is what I tell women. If you don't take the time to know yourself, you're going to keep experimenting with your life. And then eventually, eventually that leads to abuse.
Absolutely.
And it's not from other people.
Absolutely.
It's from yourself.
From yourself. From yourself.
From yourself.
So when we're talking about the changes that are going on, the changes doesn't have to be significant. Yeah. Don't let somebody else's insecurity be your own reality. Because some people want to say, oh, well, I mean, it's not bad enough. It doesn't matter. That's your own threshold.
Okay.
That's your threshold.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be so terrible where you don't have to have.
If you're uncomfortable, you're uncomfortable.
That's it. You don't have to have night sweats. You don't have to have hot flashes. If brain fog is what you're having and it bothers you, you need to be treated for your brain fog. You don't even have to have brain fog. If what's bothering you is your joint pain and you're not feeling like yourself, you deserve to be heard and you deserve a diagnosis.
Diagnosis.
It doesn't have to be all of the symptoms at once.
Yeah. You don't have to wait until it gets so bad.
You don't have to.
Yeah.
At that point, we're chasing it. At that point, we're chasing it. Use what works.
Yeah.
There's a reason why all of these supplements companies are $1 billion company, because they target our emotions. They know that people are so afraid to actually use what works.
What works.
So you take all those medications. There's a time and space for everything.
Yeah.
But let's just use what works. Ignorance is no longer an excuse.
No. There's too much knowledge out there.
It's too much knowledge.
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of noise, so sometimes it's hard to actually tell between the medical professionals, the coaches, and all of these people.
Yeah.
I get it.
No, there is a lot.
It's a lot. So I get it. And hopefully you can find somebody who knows the right person that can provide you with the right information.
And I have to give it to women. You mentioned it too, the fact that now there is a lot of women out there that are speaking up about menopause and premenopause and kind of removing that lid and those layers of shame.
Yes.
Like female, doctors and stuff, women like you, I truly gotta give it to them. Women are out there speaking.
Absolutely. The coaches. Yeah. Especially because sometimes people they have the distrust of the medical system. So we have some coaches that are doing phenomenal work by really educating people and advocating for them to seek help. We have the physical therapists that are helping with this down there, helping with pelvic health, with people that have issues that are actually talking on social media too.
Okay.
And there's so many resources right now that we're trying to abolish that shame.
Okay.
There's nothing to be shameful about.
Okay.
Perimenopause, midlife is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Midlife is
it's
phenomenal.
Growth. It's me. I like evolution. Anything changes with me, with my body, with my mind. It's growth. It's the lived experience that you're talking about.
With wisdom, a lot of us are doing things we never thought was possible. It's so liberating. Like we're living
the freedom.
Oh my God! I remember when my mom, when my mom turned 40 years ago in Nigeria, you thought, oh my God, they're so old. And oh my God, I used to worry. Yeah. If someone had told me that I'll be living this life in my 40s, I would have been like, oh my God, give me the 40s years ago. No.
It's interesting. You say that. I always say a lot of women back home, and that's really some of the reasons for Loud Whisper, for them to be able to speak up and express themselves, I believe died of a heartache.
Absolutely.
And women don't understand you really can die of stuff like that. So with you even saying, right, at the age of 40, you would have never thought you'd be living the life you're living right now. But
people, that's it. That's the power of midlife.
Yes.
You have all this wisdom. You've acquired so many experiences that at this point, you're just like, okay, I'm ready to be the best version of myself.
Yeah.
So don't let anything hold you back.
Yeah. I had a friend of mine send me a book the other day that said, this is the second half of your life. Let loose and live it.
Live it.
Yeah.
Live it. It's okay to pivot. It's okay to start all over.
It is
It's okay to learn and evolve and pick up new experiences.
And it's okay to not be okay sometimes.
And it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
We're all trying. I'm telling you, sometimes we're all fighting for our lives.
Yeah. No,
the hustle is real. It's okay.
No, that's real.
Give yourself the grace to live.
Yeah. Honestly.
Don't be this perfect person that cannot make mistakes. No.
Yeah.
Give yourself the grace to live.
Yeah.
Enjoy the process.
Yeah.
And make the best of it.
That's it. I'm not going to keep you long. You've stayed over, and I just love this. I cannot wait to share. I do have one last question for you. I'll give you the floor to close it out. What advice do you give to the women out there, especially? We're just talking about women in general, but specifically you were talking about Black women, the African women, the brown women who, with no malice, as we discussed, all of this they were never considered when people talk about menopause and premenopause. And there's so much confusion. We have limiting beliefs as to why I'm not even going to go in. I don't want to go in because of how I feel, the scrutiny, or just not being heard, not being seen, not being validated, not having someone like you who looks like me to understand me. I want us to get on this path, just the path that I'm going to get on your bandwagon, and I want to get on your bandwagon and really spread this message to Black women, the importance, Black and brown women, and just women in general, but specifically the importance of us knowing about menopause and premenopause. So I'll let you close it out and say what you need to say to the women out there.
Thank you. And this Women's Health is a passion project for me because I realize that a lot of us are going through so much without the tools that we need.
Okay.
So I'm going to tell every woman out there, give yourself the grace to take up space.
Okay.
Give yourself the grace to learn and unlearn some of the biases that you have against yourself.
Yeah.
The only way to really grow and pivot and help yourself is to be open-minded. So sometimes the system might not be made for us. The system might not look like what we're comfortable with. But how can we change that if we don't show up?
Yeah.
How can we change that if we don't speak up? How can we change that if we don't teach people how to heal our people? If you're a brown person, teach us how to heal your people. Talk about your experiences.
Yeah.
That's how we can truly learn and start to change the system. It might not be for our generation.
Yeah.
It might be for those that are coming behind us. So that way they can have these sensitive conversations without being ashamed. And we cannot do that if we continue to hide and live in fear of what can come out of it. And that comes from giving yourself the grace to take up space.
Yeah.
Do your wellness exams. Find a doctor you trust. If someone tells you no, continue to advocate for yourself, because I can promise you someone will eventually say yes. Don't give up on yourself.
Yeah.
Don't give up on yourself. Continue to push until someone listens to you. There's someone out there that will listen. As long as you don't give up on yourself.
Yeah.
As long as you continue to bet on yourself. As long as you continue to put the right energy out there.
Yeah.
We will be fine.
We'll be fine.
We'll all be.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Oh, this is amazing. Thank you so much. Wow. I'm at a loss for words. This, I have to say, has been really powerful even for myself. I've been doing this podcast for a while. It's the first time on my podcast I've actually cried. And I'm a crybaby. But my heart is full. Thank you so much for what you're doing for women in general. Thank you for educating Black women. Thank you for wanting to reach to the women on the soil in Africa.
Yes.
They need you. Yeah, they really do.
And I understand how, because you live it, and you think back to, I remember one day I was, about 15.
Yeah.
And I was going to the market, and there's this house that I would pass to get to the market. And there's this elderly lady. Back then, she wasn't even much older, maybe in her early 60s.
Yeah.
And she would sit outside, neglected, because at that point, once you're past like 50, you're considered really old. And she would sit outside every day, and I would pass by. And one day, I went to that particular house to get some things. And I was asking one of the kids, like, what's wrong with your mom? And she was like, oh, that's not my mom, that's my grandma. And I said, what's wrong with her? And she said, oh, there's nothing wrong with her, but she doesn't remember anything. He said, oh, she doesn't remember anything. So At that point, we didn't know that was Alzheimer's.
There's nothing wrong with her, but she doesn't remember anything.
So, but that was the outlook. And we're like,
but that's what I'm saying. That's how powerful.
Because they say, because she's old. She's old. She doesn't remember anything. And everybody just assumed that's part of aging. Like everybody just assumed, she's old. You're expected to have Alzheimer's. You're expected to have dementia. That was the mindset. And I grew up thinking, oh my God, okay. And you see so many old people like that that are just sitting. They don't remember anything. They can't. But all they needed was probably hormone replacement therapy.
Yeah.
To help their estrogen, to help them so that they're not neglected. And you think about millions of people
I know.
that are just going through it, not knowing what it is. And every time I have this conversation...
Life not lived, life shortened. Just life lived in despair.
And the worst part of it is the society thinks that's the norm.
I know.
That's even what's so frustrating. Like the society thinks, that's part of old age. That's expected.
But they do say that. They do say that your calling is something that pisses you off. So that makes you upset. Because they do say, if you're looking for your calling, find what makes you so angry.
And that's what when I talk about it, sometimes I still want to pull out the privilege of us living in the United States.
I know.
Of being able to say, no, I don't want that. I'm not taking that.
I know. It is. That means
it's a huge privilege to even
real.
know that you can take it if you want to, but I'm not going to take that. I don't need that.
Yeah. It is a privilege.
But I have so many aunties that are going through hot flashes in Nigeria that I cannot, they don't have bioidentical hormone. They don't have it.
Yeah. And it's so funny you say that. I always say, even with what I do with Loud Whisper, my biggest prayer is I've already envisioned it. The day I go back to Africa and speak to these women about knowing themselves and using their voice and understanding how important, how powerful they are. It will be the epitome.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for being here with us as always. What I will do is I'm going to have her information under the link, her website, what her business is. This is what I want to do, is encourage you today. Whoever is listening, if you feel this is for you and you're experiencing the things that we've talked about, as you can see, you're not alone. I sat here and I told her some of the things that I'm experiencing, okay? We don't have anything to be ashamed of. There's absolutely nothing to be ashamed of. This is a part of the journey of being a woman. This is, we need to actually embrace it, right? And go to our sisters, our nurses, our doctors who know what it would take for us to live a better life as we're evolving. The truth is, we're not going backwards.
Yeah.
So you might as well do something to make sure you enjoy your life while we're here. Because a lot of us are living a life not worth living because of because of shame, despair, feeling that we're alone, not wanting to tell people what we have going on. Here is the truth. It's me, you, and a million of us women out here.
Yes.
So sis, get up. Like our doctor said here, like she said, our nurse, find a doctor.
Yeah.
And go, and just like the way we do everything else, you go to the store, you wear an outfit 10 times till it fits right. You better go to 10 doctors until you find the one that fits right.
I had to
Serene
do that
Wellness. That's your business, right?
Serene Infusion and Wellness.
Serene Infusion Wellness. Please look it up. I'm going to say it again. Serene Infusion Wellness. She gives a lot of educational stuff. She's actually going to be at my event this Saturday, and she's going to be talking to us about all of this: menopause, premenopause, midlife. I mean, I cannot wait. But if you're not in the area, whoever is listening to wherever in the world, and if you're in Africa, there's what's up. There's no reason why you cannot reach out. There's no reason why you cannot follow her on Instagram and really start discovering yourself and wanting to see what it is to women all over the world. This is why some of us do what we do.
Yes.
Is to come to you, to be able to assist you, to assist all of us. So thank you. But I just want to say, sis, get up. get up and take care of yourself. Get up and take care of yourself. And as I always end my podcast, each and every one of you that's been listening today, know that you are here for a reason. You have a uniqueness that nobody else has. God put you on this earth. Everything that God created, He had an intention behind. You are here for a purpose. So don't let whatever you're going through keep you down. It's time to get up and know this. You are enough and you are worthy. You are worthy. Thank you so much for listening. I will put all the plugs so you can follow Serene Wellness, her practice on there. And yeah, thank you, my sister Yewande. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. God bless all of you. And again, Eid Mubarak to all of my Muslim families. Take care. Thank you for listening to the Loud Whisper Reignite Your Voice podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, please be sure to subscribe so that you never miss a conversation. I would also be honored if you would consider leaving a positive rating and review on Apple Podcasts. As always, you can connect with me through the links in the description. Thanks again for listening. We're so glad you could join us today and look forward to supporting you on your greatest journey. Have a great day.